about this fee. So, but anyway, I want to talk about food vendors, who we are, and what goes on, and what you guys as event planners should look for in a food vendor. Okay, so these are the elements of a festival that I think that every festival, in order to be successful, I heard it put best by the girl who started the Blueberry Festival, Catherine Adams. It needs to be something for everybody, like on a cruise ship. You gotta, okay, fireworks are great. A parade, like we have two events in Holden Beach. That's where I live in Holden Beach. We have one that has a parade, and one doesn't have a parade, and the difference is night and day. The parade, and of course, entertainment, kids area, adult beverage, juried arts. It's not my thing that I don't really do that much with it, but when you have juried arts, it's makes for a much better festival. Everybody really enjoys the arts and crafts rather than running by a table that's got mustard and ketchup and items like that. I've seen that before. Okay, and then the quality food. Okay, so all right, hit it, Dave. Okay, there's three types of food vendors that you can have at a festival. The push cart, the only thing you can sell from a push cart is a hot dog. Prepare and sell is a hot dog, or a hermetically sealed thing like a sandwich you would get at the Rip Mart. It's all made up, has a little package on it. Then there's the mobile food unit, which has since become known as a food truck. Food truck, you can sell anything you want in a food truck. Both those two, push cart and mobile food unit, get a permit from the health department, and they can go anywhere in the state. They get inspected just like a restaurant. They have to work out of a commissary. Okay, where it comes in play with festivals, if they can't come, they have to report back to their commissary every day for cleaning. So if they get in the lineup and can't go back to their commissary overnight, like on a Saturday night, then they have to get a temporary food establishment permit, which is what most vendors get. And that requires, there's a $75 fee, you have to sign up 2 weeks in advance. It's very specific what they have to have. And so most of the vendors do that. Okay, now here's the definition of a temporary food establishment. I understand that's changed recently on the number of days, and I'm not sure what that is, but it used to be 15 days or less, and it has to be in conjunction with a fair, carnival, some sort of public exhibition. You can't just go set up on the street corner and get a temporary food establishment permit. Okay, and then food service establishment. And what this is the key item here is it prepares or serves that is subject to produce. They prepare and serve food for a profit is what's considered a restaurant establishment. Okay, so if you have a church group that comes to your event and they're pretty much non-profit, then they can say they don't need to get they don't need a permit. And it's kind of spooky that they do this. They let these people, their hearts are in the right place, but they're not professional food people. So you really need to be concerned about that. What a lot of health departments are requiring is that the non-profits fill out a form, the food vendor form, so they know who's there and what's going on. So if you do have an outbreak of foodborne illness, they can track it back and find out exactly what's going on and who's responsible for the breakdown of the thing. So, part of what I wanted to discuss a little bit, kind of tell you who we are and how we make money. Okay, there's a transaction time. It's the time a customer comes up and says, you say how you're doing, and then they leave your booth. That's, it's some people it's 15 seconds, and some people it's a couple of minutes. Okay, because in that food environment, lunchtime only runs from 11:30 to about 1:30. So you have $120 minutes to make your money. Okay, so you have a transaction time, and then you have a transaction dollar. Okay, so the hot dog guy, he's selling a couple of hot dogs and a drink, and he's getting $5 or $6. And then you have another vendor who's over there, and he's selling a premium sandwich, and he's getting $10 or $12. In that 120 minutes, the amount of money is so much different that we, as event planners, have run the hot dog vendor out of business. They can't go to festivals anymore. It's too expensive. That's why at all my festivals, if your item is less than $5, your main item, I let you in at half price. Because there's people who come to festivals to eat food. They want to go to get the premium sandwich and the fresh cut fries and all that stuff. And then there's people that come there and they don't really care about that. They just want to come to the festival and they want something to eat. Or they might have a bunch of kids and they need that $1, $2 item and buy a canned soda for $1. Well, if you've charged them $700, $800, $900, I mean, everybody knows what their fees are. It gets astronomical. You know, it comes down to the, I probably had that up at Liberty minutes. About the cost per square foot. Like it cost me to set my booth up for one day, $1,200 is what it cost me, okay? Labor, you know, it takes me 30 or 40 man hours to set the thing up. You know, I'm in a restaurant in Holden Beach, and my kitchen under the tent is as big as what's in my restaurant. And I'm a high volume vendor, and so we have a lot of equipment, and we're moving a lot of food, feeding a lot of people. So it costs me a lot of money to set up, and so I have to sell a premium sandwich, and I need to do it in a timely fashion. But you got a guy over here has a hot dog bar. He's coming in there, and he makes, where I might make $2,000 or $3,000, he might make $400 or $500. It's not fair to charge us the same price. So as an event planner, I would encourage you to give the smaller vendor, the little hot dog guy, a price break on the thing. Okay, the other one, food's not eaten at a festival. That's the guy who sells hot sauce or cakes. Like we just got through with the Blueberry Festival over here, and several people wanting to sell. One of them wanted to do it was a heart healthy company, and they sell the food. You pick it up, you buy it online, and you go pick it up. And it's but really didn't have anything to sell at the festival. Well, they're not a food vendor. And the guy who sells cake, if they're selling slices of cake, then yeah, they're a food vendor. But if they're selling whole cakes and pies, then nobody's going to buy a whole cake of pie and eat it at the festival. They're not really a food vendor, they're a craft vendor. So I get a lot of questions about that. What about this guy? We had a guy that was raising money, he was selling popcorn, and they wanted to let him in the festival for free because he was raising money for whatever the cause was, and it was an honorable thing. But then I had a guy paying $500 to sell the popcorn, kettle corn, right? So how do you do that? You have to side with the guy who's giving you money. And my thought to them was, here we're providing you with a venue to raise your money and do all that stuff. You need to help us perpetuate the show and pay the booth fee. You shouldn't ask us to give you a free spot because first of all, you're competing with other vendors and that kind of thing. And another thing that I don't think is fair is when you let a nonprofit give away water. Like churches would come to a festival. I was up in Apex, and the church across from me was handing out free water, and they got a free spot. They were this, and here I was, paid all this money, and people weren't buying water from me because they could get it for free from the guy across the street. So it's just not fair to the food.
It's funny you say that, Pete, because we just put that rule in our effect at Pickle Festival 2 years ago. We now will not allow anybody to pass out free water because our vendors were complaining for that very reason. So we don't let it was all the churches who were trying to do a good thing, like pass out something else, but not water.
Right.
Things that I brought up in your meeting.
Sometimes they make some kind of
If you're
change
at a
that messes up with their church name.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah, so it's a case-by-case thing, but the free water has been a real issue for a lot of years, okay? And then repetitive food items. You know, you go to a festival and everybody's selling the same thing. I mean, and you're going to lose your vendors. You know, you're going to lose the good vendors if they're like the best case scenario is the Oyster Festival in Ocean Isle Beach has no duplication, no duplication. Like I can't. And I've been there for over 30 years, and they have. It's just, I can't sell Italian or Polish sausage. I have to sell smoked sausage, and it works out great. It works out great.
We have that rule with our festival, but we do allow 2 to 3 depending on how big we're laid out.
Right.
But then we purposely, one's here, one's there. One's here, one's there, so you're not side by side or even on the same block.
Right. And things like sausage, funnel cakes. Yeah, those are popular items. You can have more than one of those. Okay, Dave. Next. Okay, I have an application that I put together that covers everything. It's all on one page. It's compact, concise. I got the margins all the way out. And I have my email up here at the end of this, and you can I'll send you a copy of a boilerplate application that we use. But these are basically the items that you would have if you have these in your application. You're pretty much covering all the bases. Like when you're going to deposit the checks, the vendors. You know, the food vendor at any given time, I could have $5,000 or $6,000 out in events that I'm not going to go there for 6-8 months. They're usually about 6 months out. We're planning, and it's not hard to get a bunch of money out there, okay? And then and define the different fees, like sure electrical's up there, but yeah, like the power requirements. Like I give them all one outlet, 120 volts, 20 amps. If you want more power, there's a little fee. Okay? It's not for the power or anything else. It's just to keep them straight. Because as soon as you give them a fee, I don't really need that. Like at the Blueberry Festival, one time I had a guy get so upset with me because they're always trimming the bushes and all of a sudden he was in a spot and he sets up a 10 by 20 space, right? And he's 10 feet across, it's 20 feet deep. Well, he didn't put that in his application because he didn't want, he thought, well, I'll just put 10 by 10. Well, he gets there and he's like, well, wait a minute, I can't set up. So it's 10 by 10. Oh, well, I'm 10 by 20. I said, well, I can't help you now. It's too late now. So what I did was I said 10 by 20 is a 20-foot spot, okay? And if you want your 10 feet, if you want your 20 feet to go across the front, if I can accommodate you, then you can be in. But if I can't, then I don't have a space for you. And you know, people with the vendors that have the windows and trailers that fly up, they don't include that 3 feet in their space. And so you get them together and they go, wait a minute, I got to open my window. That's where you can't, because this guy's got a tent beside you. And if you open your window will be in the way of his tent, and I only have so many feet for you. Like we have a local guy here, and his tape measure, he has a different tape measure than the rest of us. he can't get in the spot.
One thing that we learned from experience the hard way is it's a good thing to have on that application too. If it's a self-contained truck or if it's being towed as well. And also if they're serving on the passenger side or if they're serving on the
Right, that's real important about getting them in the lineup. Is their serving side on the passenger side of their vehicle or on the driver's side? Because you can't, if you have 2 tongues together, you can't get them in there. What you want to do is flip them around and have so if you know if they're on the driver's side, then they got to go in this way, if the lineup's this way, and then so you get them back to back instead of tongue to tongue, because if you got them tongue to tongue, that's a problem getting them in there. Okay? And so, you know, I put in there that all equipment necessary to obtain a permit, we're not going to give you anything. There's no power cords, there's no anything else. You have to bring everything you need to get a permit. And let's see, 10 by 10 and charge more for extra, like at the Festival of Holden Beach, we charge them $10 a foot. It's $400 for 10 feet, and then it's $10 for every additional foot. So a 20-foot booth is $500 versus having, well, at the Mullet Festival, they charge, it's it's $400 for 10 feet, and it's $40 a foot, so you get 20 feet, it's $800. Okay, so you just need to put all that in there, however you want to charge and that kind of thing. What things to return with the application? You know, you need a detailed menu. And these are the items that you'll be approved for, and you can't have items that you don't sell on your sign. Because there's a group of people that come in and they have all this signage. I'm sure you've seen them, they go stack them up, and they'll put things on their menu that they're not selling. People come up there, and it's not fair to the guy that does have it. They'll come up there and say, oh, I want this. Usually it's funnel cakes. And so I don't have funnel cakes. Okay, we'll get this. So that's a stickler in several festivals that I want. That you can't have it on the sign if you don't have it, if you're not selling it. Okay? Oh yeah, rain or shine event. Rain or shine event, no refunds after you are accepted. That's and just, you know, things that you think that, you know, you need, but it should all be in the application. And if you, like I say, if you want to email, I'll send you one of my applications.
Yes.
Any questions about the application? Hit it, Dave. Okay. The food prices, right? You know, we're always accused of being more because we're at a festival. Okay? So I charge more, personally. I think, you know, I'm gonna be accused of it as well, but if you look at my prices compared to a restaurant, we're pretty much the same price. And people say, well, you know, in a restaurant, I can go inside, they have air conditioning, sit down, have somebody wait on me, and I say, yeah, well, where's the band playing in the restaurant? Where are the arts and crafts? I mean, we are providing a convenience. The reason I am in this business is because about 40 years ago, I went to Savannah, Georgia to the St. Patty's Day Festival. It was my birthday. And they had quit selling food to sell booze. There was no food anywhere to be found. We were starving. You had to walk miles to go get food because everybody wanted to sell booze. And now they actually have food vendors down there, I think festival food vending kind of spawned out of these big events where you couldn't get food. And so we provide a service. It's a convenience that you don't have to leave the festival to go get something to eat to come back. Plus, if you think about it, an area can only support so much restaurants. You know, there's so many people, they go out to eat, it's X amount of dollars, the good ones survive and the bad ones go away. When you bring 20 or 30,000 people into the town, the restaurants can't handle it. It's just not set up for that. They need food vendors to feed all these people and invite it down. So that's one of the big things. And then, you know, we're only set up for 2 days. We have no facilities, okay? I get inspection every time I set up with the health department. You have a restaurant, and we're closing in the winter. I get 2 inspections a year at my restaurant, and I might get, when I was doing 50 or 60 festivals a year, that's how many inspections I got. I knew everybody on a first name basis. And then we have to pay for, put our employees, you know, at night. We don't lock the door. And we all got to stay in hotels, so it's expensive to operate a setup like mine. And so that's why our food prices, I don't think we're that much higher, but we are higher. We are higher than most. Any questions about food pricing or anything of that? What you do? The dark side neighbors. Sure, we've all seen these. Okay, there are people that come in there. How do you put this gingerly? There's a group of people, okay, most of them are from other countries, and before 9/11, they were very vocal about the fact that they hated America and hated Americans, and they were just trying to make enough money so they could go back to their home country. But after 9/11, they quit saying that because it got to be a problem. But these people takes them an hour to pass a health inspection. But they have, listen, you see their booths, and they're nice, and they make elaborate setups, and they have 50 items. I was at a festival, and the vendor next to me had turkey legs, and this event was in June, okay? And it was a one-day event, and they had the turkey legs. They only come like 15 in a box, about as, like this, right? Because they're so big. and you can't refrigerate. So they had these turkey legs behind their booth. I thought they were sweet potatoes, okay? But they were turkey legs, and they had brought these there, had set them outside. They were there all day, out in the heat. And if you find a turkey leg vendor, I promise you, they have turkey legs sitting somewhere that are not, or they have products that are not, because they have so many products. You know, I had a guy, they put me in charge of an event, and they asked me to kick this person, one of these vendors out that had all these items, right? And he called up and complained and said, listen, he's a food vendor, and he sells the same items I do. Well, that guy had so many items that he could say that of anybody. Because they have like their menus read like books. There's no way you can refrigerate that much product in the environment we're in, especially if your event doesn't provide some sort of power or place to put your service vehicle. Like at the Blueberry Festival, I let everybody put a trailer or a truck or something behind their booth so they can keep their food, keep it plugged in, keep it close by. Before that, I remember following a guy down the street, and he had his truck parked 4 or 5 blocks away, had everything in there. There was no power or nothing. He had everything sitting in there all day long. You know, we got to think about these things. When I was on the committee for writing the state application for food vendors, I wanted to put in there something about anticipated volume, so that when the health department showed up, they could say, how much chicken are you going to sell? How many turkey legs are you going to sell? Because, you know, let's face it, if you're only going to sell 50 turkey legs, it's not worth messing with. You need to sell hundreds of them in order to mess with that and get, okay, where are these turkey legs at? But that never came to fruition. So, but that would be my advice to any event planner, is to walk around with the health department and the vendor, and they'll tell you, don't have this guy back. These people can't do it. But when they're in the booth for an hour, the health department's in this guy's booth for an hour, you got a problem. There's a problem. And there's been some foodborne illnesses, and they had some in Fayetteville has a Dogwood Festival. They had a situation where a guy, 300 people went to the hospital, and what they found, all came back to this one vendor. It was one of these dark side vendors I'm talking about, and they just, some of them, like in Zay Festival one year, the health department went down there, the guy left his food out on the grill all night, and he came back in and just turned the grill back on. And then they had the vendor, they used to they cooked the chicken, and they'd leave it on the grill, and they cut the grill on warm, and the food on top was so cold that they could put lettuce and tomato up on top, and it wouldn't wilt. And they just pull from the bottom. And that's how they make people sick. And there's people out there, I don't know, I personally think that they know better, they just don't care. That, you know, they're high volume, they're making money, and they have the mentality, well, we're not coming back, so no one will find out. But, so yeah, the dark side vendors, like, see the cotton candy, that was out in front of the booth. That cotton candy machine, it's where little kids could just reach over. And this guy thought, no, I need to have that because to show people to see me making cotton candy. And that was a problem. I mean, my advice for you is to go with the health department and listen to see what they say about these vendors, because not all vendors have food safety in mind. Okay? All right, Dave. And then talks about the service of the anticipated volume and the security. Now, the health department's got a lot better about security at night of your product. You know, it wasn't locked up, but it used to be, that was not, they weren't thinking that way. And then, the contract for service, I'm sure you know that they require you to have gray water and all that. You have to have a gray water barrel for the vendor to throw out their hand wash water and all that. Okay, so, but it's not up to the festival to provide that. The food vendor will not get a permit if he doesn't have that. Okay, so it's the festival provides that for him in an effort to, have, like I know in Little Washington they have a festival down there that they didn't want any of that, so they had all nonprofits. So they would have to have gray water barrels, and that's what the health department and those kinds of things. But the gray water barrel is an issue for food vendors. It's our responsibility as a food vendor to have gray water there. So that's something we really don't need to provide, but it's good that you have that.
As a food vendor, and with the health department, being inspected, is there a form that you receive regularly from the health department that festival organizers can ask the food vendor for a copy of?
No. We get, I'm inspected every time I set up, and that's
Do they
it.
give you a piece of paper that says you're okay? No, they just let you say.
They just let you go. And I tried to push for that if we could get something like a contractor gets to build houses, right? They get a permit, they could build a house, and I tried to get them to tie it into the Serve Safe. If you could pass the Serve Safe class thing, then you could get the permit. But they didn't like that idea.
I have a question about, water grade hoses.
Food grade hose.
Food grade, okay, sorry, I'm using the wrong words. Is that something most food vendors expect to
Yeah.
own?
Yeah.
So clarify.
I have
that.
1,000
If it's a garden
feet.
hose,
Right.
if it's just running to here, but if it's gonna be, somebody's gonna drink it, it has to come out of a food grade hose.
Right, and the health department, most of the health departments are all over that, food grade hose.
But you can't run to Lowe's and buy.
You get it at Walmart.
You can get them at Walmart.
Walmart has it, in the RV section.
Oh.
Yeah, and they just recently come out with a 50 foot. And I do an event in Charleston, I'm 1,000 feet from the water.
Right.
I have 1,000 feet of food grade hose. It took me about 6-8 years to get this amount of hose, and we all used to drew it together. Yeah, but we all know that we need food grade hose. And for us, like if you make lemonade in a regular garden hose, it's gonna have that plastic taste in it. And that's the difference, right. And so, yeah, food grade hose is definitely,
And I was gonna respond, I don't know where you're going, with us for the health department, they don't have a sheet of paper that says you passed. But if they do the inspections and they're out, they come directly to us and say they can't open it.
right.
So they'll tell us you can't, instead of running around telling us who is. So we assume they're good to go until the health department comes to us and says they're out. Because of this, and they have 2 hours to solve it.
Because I had a barbecue guy at a festival who he didn't cool his barbecue properly. He took it out at midnight and he put it in Ziploc bags, stacked them up, and put it in the refrigerator. The health department got there in the morning at 8 o'clock, temped it, and it has to be, you get 2 hours to get it to 70 degrees, and you have 4 more hours to get it below 41 degrees, and he didn't do that, and they condemned his barbecue, and he came over and got me, and we had to get the trash guys over there, and they threw it off, 750 pounds of barbecue, threw it out. And, yeah, there was, at the barbecue festival in Lexington, they were cooking heating up turkey legs in a warmer. They put them in there overnight. And they were in a warmer, and they told the guy to throw it out, and he wouldn't do it. And they brought the Department of Agriculture came down there and told the guy that if he didn't throw it out, they were going to fine him $100,000 and put him in jail for 6 months for serving contaminated food. So it's it's a touchy situation. And now, one of the things that changed in the new rule was that if you're a food vendor, you have to be sponsored by the event. You can't go down, and this came out of Lexington because vendors were setting up everywhere. It was mass chaos in there. They were setting up in people's backyards, and they didn't have the rules, and it was crazy. And this is where they caught this guy with the turkey legs, and it was in a warmer. You have to heat something up, and you have to heat it to 165 degrees under rapid heating, any item that you reheat, like a turkey leg. And he couldn't do that with a warmer because the warmer only got to 140 degrees. That was his problem in the thing. But so if you're not sanctioned by the event, you can't get the temporary food establishment permit. The health department. Yeah, there's a lot of people liable for that. There's a lot of people liable for that.
And it's 2 months from your.
No, actually, it's just wherever you. Yeah, the footprint. There is, all the festivals that I deal with, I send a map in.
No, I mean,
Beer,
the
picture
rules,
of all that stuff.
if there was in miles of their festival, they have to be sanctioned.
Yeah, I would think,
I
yeah.
thought it was 2 miles, somewhere that came from.
Yeah, okay, yes. All I've ever heard is that you
They're
have
not
to be,
across the street, you're around the corner.
right. You have to be associated with the.
And
but,
that's
you know,
what the-
Remember now that we're applying for a temporary event, which is in conjunction with a temporary event, like a festival or a car show or something like that. So if the car show doesn't sanction the food vendor, then they will be able to get a TFE permit to be across the street.
The town of Virgo has that for the Blueberry Festival. Nobody, unless they're signed to the Blueberry Festival, should be allowed to get a permit that day
Right.
to operate outside of the.
Yeah, a lot of people have passed that.
Somebody has a capacity inspection or it's a food truck, everybody has to pay for it, and for some reason, somebody does get sick, who is liable in that event? Obviously, the food operator is, but is supposed to be.
Yeah, you know, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that, but I would think that a lot of people are liable.
I'd talk to your your insurance agent. Talk to your insurance agent, because
Yeah.
it'll say if it's covered.
Right. At the Mullet, yeah, at Onslow County, the Mullet Festival, we got a bill from the insurance company. Our insurance went from $400 to $5,000. And so we were like having a panic attack, and they said, okay, you owe us $5,000 for this year, and you owe us $4,600 for last year, so you owe us $9,600 for insurance. Well, I had made all my food vendors have to have insurance, $2 million policy, and have to list the event as additional insured. So we presented that to the insurance company, and they backed down, and we were back to $400 a year. But yeah, so to have the and as a food vendor, we all have that. Dave has it. You know, he's a ride guy. He has it worse than I do. You know, because think of the liability you have lifting little kids into bouncy houses, and so it's expensive. But and it's a known thing. Like his insurance, they just mail them right out to the events. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's an additional insured certificate. It's called a certificate of insurance, and you list the event as an additional insured. And so you do that, and it takes care of a lot of problems.
I got another question, since we don't necessarily do the community development very much, but all these concerts and different things that we have in the park, the softball tournaments and all that, if you just name the county as a additional insurer, then you should be able to come to every one of our events as a food vendor without one COI.
Yeah, I wouldn't know about that.
Within a year.
No, they passed on to the
I do know that if you get the a permit, and it came from the Renaissance Festival they used to have up in the mountains. The Renaissance Festival operates for 2 days, for so many weeks, and so the 15-day permit is good. They give it to you at your first event. You work 2 days, and then the second event, that's 2 more, so that's 4 days. You go up to 15 days, and then you have to do. Sal had to do that up here, right? We had a food vendor here on the farm who was doing food, and he got that. He could do that because it was over a certain amount of time. But yeah, so if you have an event that goes every weekend, 2 days, then you can get it under one permit for. And I think what they changed it to? Weren't you telling me they changed it to 20 days? Okay.
I have a question about, we have, in one of our county festivals, they're having a problem with people setting up in the backyards, like you were saying. Not even getting permits or anything. They're just setting up and selling like chicken bog
Right.
from their front yard.
Right.
Now, is that a Department of Agricultural
No.
thing?
No, it's environmental health. And if
Okay.
you call the health department, well, actually you should call code enforcement, because those people are operating a business without a business license. which is the other thing we deal with as a food vendor. We go to if we set up outside the, when you have a festival, you're buying the business license for the food vendors. So it all comes together. Or somebody set up across the street, you don't have a business license. You have to go to zoning and get a permit to vend, sell, and that stuff in order to get a business license.
But they don't sell it, they just ask for donations, so it's not being sold.
Okay, so if they're, you're in a, but they have to be nonprofit, and a nonprofit can set up for 2 days in a 30-day period and not be permitted. But you have to have that 501c3 certificate for nonprofit in order to do that. Or you're operating a business without a permit, even if you're asking for donations.
Don't they have to still have like a sneeze zone and all that stuff, even if they don't have to be permanent?
No. Because in Brunswick County, they were telling me that I set up under a tent. The fire marshal was saying you can't cook under a tent. And the health department was saying you got to set up. So the one would come by, we moved the tent, and the other one would come by, and we put it back over. And it was a big mess, and it went off. So I called the fire marshal is under the Department of Insurance. Y'all might want to write that down. Nobody knows that. And there's a guy up there who does code enforcement, and they just changed him a year or so ago, and I don't know the new guy's name, but call those people up, and where the loophole is if you have a tent that's smaller than 40 by 40, you don't have to get a permit. So a 20 by 20, you don't have to have a permit, so you don't have to apply for the rules, because you can call it a membrane structure. You cannot cook under a membrane structure if it's to get a permit. You can't have sidewalls up or any of that stuff. But if your booth is less than 40 by 40, now you don't have to have a permit. So the fire department's they really can't do nothing to you because you don't need a permit to operate it. So that's how come. Because I called them up and said, how come there's 150 vendors cooking at the state fair as we're speaking now, and they're telling me in Brunswick County I can't cook under a tent, and we've got 150 vendors at the state fair doing this, and that's the loophole. Is that and so the state fire marshal, he's not that bad a guy. There's supposed to be 10 feet between every booth that cooks food, okay? And they hardly ever enforce this rule, but they did in Little Washington cut the vendors in half. Do they,
They
Wilson?
have a pole that is 10 feet long, and they walk right between each booth.
Yeah, and so that's,
It's right. If it's self-contained, it's not an issue because there's no chance of
Right.
the likelihood of fire spreading is minimal. So if it's a tent or it's open cooking, 10 open feet on all 4 sides.
right. Right, under tent, cooking in a
I
tent.
hate that pole.
I know it, man, because that really takes out a lot of, yeah, you think about, your event, that would,
10 feet, that's a whole booth.
yeah, a whole nother booth. No, you can't, it has to be open.
So
And
we've taken to putting picnic tables. That's what we put a table on each side for people to sit down. We've accepted as part of the rules and
it's for getting in and out, egress, getting in and out of the tent for in case something
it's a
happens.
fire.
Right. Right. Yeah, but that's the Department of Insurance is who,
I was going to share one funny story, because you asked about the nonprofit. 2 years ago, we had a dog groomer open up downtown. We're very excited. It was lovely, the new store opening. And halfway through the festival, we're wandering and saying hi. Her church came into the dog grooming and decided to sell hot dogs. And it was nonprofit, so the health department kind of stood there going, and dogs are being groomed and we're like, holy cow, and it's a nonprofit, so we all went,
it's kind of crazy stuff that goes on now.
Oh, it was already down the counter, 2 feet away, they were washing dogs and, oh, it was awful.
If people wanna buy that, that's on them.
Get your furry hot dog right here.
Okay, one thing of interest up here, the fire retardant tents, okay, the CPIA 84 and the NFPA 701, those are the two certificates. The NFPA 701 are in those tents that cost $4,000 or $5,000, okay? The CPI 84 are the tents you can get at Sam's Club that have that's a California rating. When North Carolina, when they came up with the rules that say 10 feet between the booths, and it says NFP 701, and another screwball rule they have in there is that the propane tanks need to be 10 feet from the source. So you got these tents, you got bottles sitting out here 10 feet away from the booth that people can trip over, knock over, and that's even worse. But when North Carolina wrote the rule, they excluded the CPI 84 out of the rule. It's not in there. But they accept it, but you have to call the guy at the code enforcement at the fire marshal's office if you have a problem with that. But I think they've all pretty much caught on to that now. That was something that happened about 6 or 7 years ago. And they were like, no, we're not approving this tent. The code says the NFPA 701, so that's about that. And the fire extinguishers, the K-Series fire extinguishers, it's a big silver, they cost about $400, and the other ones cost $20, the little red ones. But you have to have a K-Series if you're using a fryer to cook food. But the fire marshal, they're all over that one. Okay, any other questions about
So
fire?
California can have one of the little red ones.
No, they need them, they got open flame.
They don't have to be.
Well, you know what, I think they do, but they are putting, that would be, usually it's fryers. Fryers, the K-Series extinguishers.
Okay. I have a question.
Okay.
So if a festival doesn't put this in their rules, all of this stuff that you have to have this, and the fire marshal may come and inspect you, and you get inspected as a food vendor, that we don't have that, and we have to ask you to leave, do you hold the festival responsible because we don't have that
No.
listed?
No, that's something, you should know that. You know, that's all part of doing business. You need to be, you can't, to show up as a food vendor and not know you need a K-Series and that you need to bring all your own equipment and all that stuff, and you can't get a permit, then you can't sell. And usually what I've done, when I've had this situation several times, I bring the police over there and escort them out of town, and when the festival's over, you can come back and get your stuff. You can't pack up right now. It's too dangerous for you to pack up Saturday morning and bring a truck in here at 10 o'clock. Get the police, and that's what I do. Whenever I go and got a real problem, get the police and go over there, and it'll be amazing how nice they are about what happened if you got the police. But if you go there by yourself or a couple of committee members, it can be a problem.
I'm gonna start taking them with just my other.
Yeah, but the food vendors should know that you need all that stuff. And that's why in my application, I put on there, bring everything you need to obtain a permit from the health department. You are responsible for bringing, but if you email, that's my email there. I'll send you a boilerplate application. You can make it work. Mine's one page. I try to keep it all on one page, real simple, and it works. It works. What I do is I go back, like I'm having to redo the Blueberry Festival because I had some situations this year where they kind of snuck a couple of things up, and power's the big one. Several people show up and they put on their application 50 amps. Well, I kind of missed that. And then he said, well, I put it on my application. I said, yeah, well, it says one, but we were able to get them power. But now what I'm going to do is it's going to be, if you want a 30 amp, it's going to be $25 extra. And if you want 240 volts, it's going to be $100 extra, just to tighten them up and bring them back. Yeah, because you get out there, you don't have the power, and they're like, wait a minute, I got to have power, and I put it on my application.
Yeah, we had somebody running, they tripped us up, they kept tripping the breaker. They had 4 fryers running off of one
Power
one
strip.
lane, one power
Yeah.
strip.
Yeah.
And we were like, listen, this is the same power that you get at your house. You're not gonna run that at your house. You can't run it out here.
Right.
But so we had to revisit our application because of that.
Yeah. And that's what I do. I just keep grooming the application. And just have a problem next year, okay, that's how we'll fix it. Charge it.
Is there a language that can be used to discuss generators? Because every food vendor, I say, well, it's a quiet generator. Oh, yes, it's quiet, you can hear it.
Whisper quiet. And I tell them, if we come by there and we can hear your generator, we're gonna ask you to cut it off, because we've paid people to come here and play music, and now they can't hear the music, but in almost all of my festivals, it's no generators allowed.
But there's no
generators.
letters or amps or decibels. or
No,
something
usually
like
it's
that.
the whisper quiet thing, because you know, those big generators that come in the, you can stand right next to them and talk, the real big ones that they have, that they bring in.
Whisper is the word.
Whisper quiet is